Hey folks, thanks for joining the Quiet Light podcast. I am Joe Valley, the co-host of the show. Mark Doust, my business partner, is the other host. We don't do it together anymore. He does one and then I do 9, just to let you all know how even it is. Today's podcast is sponsored by Quiet Light Brokerage, where everyone on the team, every advisor has built, bought, and sold their own online business. There are no junior advisors here. If you want to understand the value of your business, even if you're not going to exit for 12 to 24 months, which is really what you should do in advance, planning, training, getting ready in advance, please reach out to us. Anybody in the team will be happy to help. Just go to quietlightbrokerage.com and fill out the valuation form or check out our current listings. Today's guest, I'm telling you, is a very impressive one. His name is Roy Morejon, and we'll be talking about crowdfunding. Roy is the president and co-founder of Inventys Partners right here in Charlotte. They're a product development, crowdfunding, and digital marketing agency. Roy's a frequently featured guest on, guess this, CNN, Entrepreneur, Forbes, Huffington Post, and Fast Company. And he actually consulted for AOL and Microsoft in his teens. We cannot record an entire podcast on what I wasn't doing in my teens. It was just surviving high school is what I was doing. So I'm pretty impressed with that, Roy. Roy's helped thousands of entrepreneurs raise more than $300 million using crowdfunding. And if you don't know what it is, it's an approach that often allows you to determine if the public is even interested in your product before spending the money and going out and manufacturing the product. Several Quiet Light clients have worked with Enventys and Roy. I highly suggest you listen to the entire podcast. Maybe we'll get that story about what Roy did with AOL and his teens, and definitely visit inventorspartners.com. Roy, a fellow Mainer, welcome to the Quiet Light podcast.
Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
You are wicked smart. We just realized that we're both from Maine. We grew up 30 minutes from each other. He's from Freeport. Y'all know LL Bean, and I grew up about 30, maybe 40 minutes north of that in Gardner, Maine. So welcome. I'm glad we're finally getting to talk. Lewis and I, your business partner, have chatted many, many times. We've had many clients that have come to visited. Ramon, who many people on the podcast have heard, has met with you personally and raves about you guys. So thank you so much. Crowdfunding is really the focus. And as Lewis says flat out, you know more about crowdfunding and have helped more entrepreneurs, e-commerce entrepreneurs with crowdfunding than almost anyone in the entire country. Is that true, or is that a little bit of an exaggeration? That's true, isn't it?
I'd go with the world. No, fortunately, right place, right spot. In terms of where we got started in crowdfunding, starting the digital agency I did back in 2010, the intention wasn't to be a crowdfunding marketing company. I'm just good at SEO, and we ranked first on Google for startup marketing. And that's when the first campaign actually reached out to us, filled out the contact form, and we were like, what is Kickstarter? I'd never heard of it back in 2011, 2012. And that's when, we basically did some digital ads, some PR, and some Facebook ads for them and doubled their funding. We're like, hey, this is pretty interesting. We get to work with startups, which we love. We get to be agile, test lots of different things. And there's, money at the end of the day in terms of seeing a transaction come through. So, that snowballed into, what we have now, where there's a massive team of people running campaigns, doing production, doing product development. And we're, working with really interesting, brand new products that the world hasn't seen yet.
And there are so many questions that I have, and I wish back in the day that I knew about you guys before I launched my last physical product, because it would have been perfect for crowdfunding. It would have been perfect to determine whether or not the public had any interest in it whatsoever. Before I went out to, find the manufacturers, which is something you guys also do, is you help the e-commerce entrepreneurs with finding manufacturers, but that's an entirely different subject. Can you, for the novice out there, including myself, just define what crowdfunding is and how it works?
Yeah, the simplest form, it's a matter of bringing together a crowd to pre-purchase a product or show actual monetary interest in buying an idea. A product before it's actually made, right? So you're market validating your product idea. And Kickstarter, Indiegogo, these are the main sites that we utilize to test an audience and test a product and see whether or not people are willing to pre-purchase the product before it exists and comes to market.
And so that word before it exists, is that the key? Is that it can't be an existing product? It just doesn't make sense. It's an idea and a concept that you do the tests with?
Yeah, so it has to be new, novel. It can be an extension of a previous product. Kickstarter has also allowed, different colors of products to come out as new. But there's definitely a line there that the trust and safety team would look at on the platforms themselves. But typically, this is a place for entrepreneurs, startups to launch their new innovation. It can't have been sold anywhere else, online, on your website, Amazon, wherever it may be. And really, it's just the first opportunity for the true early adopters in the world to back and get this product at the best price you can afford.
The early adopters being the buyers at the best price that they can afford. So are they getting a discount to buy it pre-production?
Massive in some instances. Yeah, I mean, hundreds of dollars in some instances where there's been a product that pre-sold for $100, and then when it finally came to market, it was $700 or $800 because that entrepreneur didn't potentially quote the product correctly in terms of what they originally thought the manufacturing cost would be for it.
So how does it work if you do a campaign and it fails? Some people buy it and they fund it, but you and the entrepreneur say, look, this isn't really a viable product. The public has told us that. Do you refund all of the money? Do you go back to the drawing board and start with a modification of it? How does it generally work?
Depends on your definition of failure, right? So for Kickstarter itself, it's an all or nothing platform. You set a public facing funding goal. I need $50,000 to bring this product to market.
Okay.
If you don't reach that number, no credit cards get charged. Nobody gets their product, right? If it does reach that goal, you take all that capital, comes into your accounts, and you are then liable to deliver that product. Should you not be able to deliver that product, many campaigners return the funds or give some sort of discount code for other products that company may have, or try and explain why there's no money left. And certainly there have been campaigns that have raised millions of dollars and said that they lost all the money, invested all the money into product development, and they just can't bring the product to market. And that's where you get upset backers. But overall, with Kickstarter, it's an all or nothing platform. With Indiegogo, you do have flexibility of what's called flexible funding, where if it doesn't reach the public-facing funding goal number that you've shown, you are still allowed to collect and keep all of that money, but in turn, obviously, still need to deliver a product at the end of the day.
Okay, big difference between the two. So in the audience, we've got, SaaS content business owners, but a lot of e-commerce business owners as well. And some of them might be buying a business. And we know that one of the ways to continue to grow a business and stay ahead of competitors is to innovate and launch new products. So in this case, if all they have is a concept and an idea, and they want to expand their total SKU count, and I always, for some reason, go back to grilling aprons. A perfect match with grilling aprons might be something to clean the grill with, right? Or whatever. We'll go into it. There could be lots of different things. If somebody has the idea, you've got a team that helps them take that idea from their head onto paper into design and that whole process. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, being probably one of the only turnkey product launch companies in the world, we have a team of engineers that can truly take that napkin sketch idea, build out the prototype, do the ergonomic testing, the engineering, the electrical, mechanical, IoT, whatever it may be, if it's a smart device or a dumb device, if you will. We have an entire team dedicated solely on building product. Once that product is then made, prototyped, built out, we then take it over to our studios where we do the filming and the product photography and all of the asset creation then around the product. Then it goes upstairs to our branding and content team that start building out the story. What is this product story? How is it going to be used? What are the features, benefits, those sorts of things? And then it brings into, the crowdfunding campaign where we're raising capital for that product to then be made and manufactured. So in the case of your apron, there may be a few different variations of that apron that we may want to test and try. Maybe we say, hey, let's try the grill brush, or let's try adding a towel feature to it so you can clean something off with it. Let's add these different features to it, where we're now able to actually test each feature, through market validation in terms of building out a quick website, even before we take it to a Kickstarter campaign where it's very public and the world can see exactly what you're thinking about launching, we can run small tests and iterations of that product and see what truly resonates, what gets the most engagement, setting up these trap doors of people, clicking to buy and like, oh, it's not ready yet, but we'll notify you when it is. So there's a variety of ways to bring and test products before you actually bring it to market and spend money on manufacturing where there truly isn't an engaged audience around that product idea.
Yeah, we've talked to several folks. Actually, you had mentioned you've done a lot of folks that were on Shark Tank and whatnot, and it's a funny thing with Shark Tank. Everybody thinks that every Shark Tank entrepreneur that gets a deal on TV is a big success. Not the case at all, in my experience. And so many of them that I've talked to never really got the contract signed, but they end up selling the business. We actually have one under LOI right now that was a no to the Shark Tank folks. I don't know how I got on this tangent, by the way. But the Shark Tank, they all said no. I think Mr. Wonderful actually said, "You're dead to me," even though, and that the business wasn't going to be valued, but it's under LOI for like $5 or $6 million now. Anyway, why was I saying that, Roy? It's because I think you take those ideas and you innovate and you grow them. And one of the Shark Tank people, actually, we did a podcast where they actually did what you just suggested, which was you create the website, put some ad spend behind it, and see if the public is interested. And if there's enough people clicking on the order button, then you go ahead, and in that case, they went right to manufacturing. But in your case, you're doing crowdfunding, which is, I think, a much smarter way, because you're raising the money to build the product out, obviously. On average, and I know this is hard, but so many questions come to mind. How much money are you typically shooting for? How do you determine how much to raise? Does that cover the cost of manufacturing? Are they looking is a typical client trying to make money on the crowdfunding process, and so on and so forth? Can you just dive into some of that for me?
All good questions, Joe. So there's a bit in art and the science to setting a funding goal, right? In terms of the public perception of, oh, they only need $50,000. They must be far enough down the line where that makes sense for them to finish tooling, manufacturing, packaging, logistics, whatever it may be. But then there's almost always an internal goal that is hidden from the general public in terms of, this is the true number we actually need to manufacture our MOQ. And that public facing funding number sometimes may be set low arbitrarily because of wanting to hit the funding goal on day one and show early success. No one wants to be the first one on the dance floor, right? But once everybody's out there having a party and it's a good time, that's when everybody else wants to join in. So that same mentality flows through Kickstarter campaigns, where we want to get as many early adopters, early backers into the campaign as possible, setting a funding goal that's based off of a lot of data as well, in terms of the pre-campaign marketing that we're doing. What does it cost us to acquire an email address or a potential customer? Back that into what our MOQ is, and then kind of figure out what the actual public-facing funding number should be. So there's a lot of back and forth, but obviously we're only making decisions based off of the data that we're having in terms of what we're doing pre-campaign marketing for all of our clients.
Is shooting for a day one success, hitting the goal, typical, or is it 1 week or 3 weeks, or how does it vary?
It's critical. Meeting and exceeding the funding goal within the first 48 hours is typically critical to an overall six-figure campaign. And again, the average campaign, is only raising, I think, $25,000 on Kickstarter, where if you raise over $100,000, you're in the 1.8 percentile of all campaigns. It is critical to the overall success of many of these tech physical products that need to raise lots of money to make and manufacture the products, that they have early success and early traction, right out the gate.
You just said tech products. Are the majority of your clients tech-related products, or do you work with a wide variety of them?
Yeah, we like to play in a few different categories. Product design being the largest category that we play in terms of how Kickstarter categorizes these products, and that can be anything from, you know, fitness gadgets to kitchen gadgets to you name it, you know, a nice design, a physical thing, consumer product. We also play a lot in fashion. Fashion has a massive early adopter community as well of people that want the newest shoes, sneakers, pants, shirts, belts, you name it. We've fully funded an entire wardrobe, you know, all over the place. And then lastly is the tech, you know, anything that has a hardware component to it. Early adopters, again, that we're focusing in on, those folks want the newest tech before it ever hits the shelves of Best Buy, and they find it all on Kickstarter. And this is where, you know, an Oculus has come out, a Pebble has come out, you know, many of these massive big tech brands, hardware brands that have come out and seen good success post crowdfunding because they built that community early on and they were able to continue to tap into it. And again, that's one of the other advantages of the crowdfunding side with the Amazon community on this podcast, is just that you own this community. This is your crowd that you can continue to nurture and ask for feedback for the next product that you come out with. So these people are in your database. They're following your social media accounts. They know you. They feel like they had a part of the product development and the product lifecycle and how it came out and how it came to market. And likely they're going to be, you know, your biggest brand evangelist as you continue forward, rolling out new SKUs and new product lines. So that's a massive advantage of just getting feedback early from your actual customers.
At what stage do you work with a customer, and then at what stage do you generally finish? Because, you know, from the product designing concept to the industrial designing and engineers and all that to the crowdfunding, you know, you just said they then own that customer, right? They're able to reach out to them with a next product that they develop. Are you working with them in many cases on that, again, design and concept and sending emails out to that database to get feedback? Or are you going straight to the crowdfunding and those folks see it again? How does it work typically?
Yeah, I mean, so our hope is that most of the clients use every room in our building, right? You know, so they come in, we do their product development, manufacturing, sourcing, whatever it may be. Then we're creating all their assets for them. Then we're running their campaign. And then we are in charge of, you know, constant communication with the community that we built while they're developing the product, getting it ready to ship. Then the shipments go out, and then it's, again, more communication with those backers. And then it's starting engagement of, hey, we're thinking of improving this, this, and this based on your feedback. And then it's surveys, text messaging, SMS, email marketing, whatever it may be, to continually communicate and have that one-to-one relationship with those customers in terms of what's the next thing we should bring out. And we have many clients that have done, well, we have a handful of clients that have done more than 5 or 6 campaigns with us. Some have run, you know, 15 or 16 campaigns just on Kickstarter because they keep going back and saying, hey, you liked this one, what do you want next? What do you want next? What do you want next? And the crowd truly feels like they have a buy-in in the next product that comes out, and they're more and more likely to obviously buy it, but then tell their friends of, hey, there's this cool guy that keeps creating these cool products, maybe you should get involved.
Every room in your building, you just went through a whole list of things. You've got engineers, industrial designers, people that are doing the digital marketing, buying media for you, relationships with manufacturing. Are you managing inventory for them as well? Or does it, do you do any of that, or is that left in the business owner's hands?
Inventory side, we typically don't get into. Usually there's an expert team that needs to handle that. And obviously I'm sure you've had many of those folks, you know.
Oh, it's very difficult. It's
through your buildings, and yeah, it's a challenge, and it's something that we're not experts in. So it's not something that we try to do.
I had somebody on the podcast recently where they did 300 million in revenue on Amazon and had to build their own inventory management tool because there's really nothing out there that does it the way that it should be done. There's lots of different products, but nobody raves about any particular one. So, okay. But really Inventys Partners is doing it almost everything from a product marketing standpoint, from concept to putting it on paper to helping people with the crowdfunding and getting it launched, all the way to you need some help with sourcing manufacturers. We've got those relationships as well. Am I missing anything?
No, I mean, that's all of it. We even have inventors that simply are, you know, creators, and they just drop off products. Here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea. And we run them through our own personal tests, and we say, yeah, we like that one, and do, you know, licensing deals or partnership deals with those folks as well that don't want to quit their day job, don't want to be a founder of a startup, but think they have a great invention. We agree, and we launch campaigns with them. So again, there's a variety of different ways that we can work with, all of the entrepreneurs or idea makers out there.
It's interesting on the licensing and whatnot. Let's talk a little bit about you talked about designs. Do you guys help with or refer people out to patent attorneys, design and utility patents, and how much does that come into play in the success of some of the campaigns that you do?
Yeah, patents is an interesting one, and it's definitely something that we advise all of our clients to get. We typically source that out, to answer your question. It's not something that we have an in-house attorney on, but we have local resources here in Charlotte that we utilize for that service. But I mean, there's the biggest case out there on the patent side was one of our early clients, Bunch of Balloons, with Josh Malone, and he had to go through a lot of challenges there to win the rights and win a court case against the folks that ripped off his product. And then there's still a lot of issues going on with the patent office and PTAB and all of that. And I'm definitely not going to dive into that because I'm not the expert on that. But it's always our recommendation to get as much protection as possible, because Kickstarter is getting viewed by 1 million people every day.
Right.
And there's a lot of nefarious folks out there looking for the next great invention that's already getting traction and ramping up their factory because they can see that this product's going to be a success long after Kickstarter is over. And I think you can look at Fidget Cube as one of those campaigns in terms of very simple, easy design, very elegant, but he put all the blueprints on his Kickstarter campaign to get backers, right, to show what it looks like. But a factory ramped up very quickly and was already shipping product, I think $500,000 worth of product, even before that campaign ended. So there's a balance there in terms of how much you show, in terms of knowing that if you're patented and protected, hopefully that gives you a leg up and months, a year in advance, of other people trying to duplicate that product.
Yeah, I've heard some sad stories like that as well. So you really can't just jump into this. You've got to think well in advance, obviously. And some probably more products than not are not patentable. So it is what it is, but it allows you to expand on your current product line. Let's talk about Inventors Partners a little bit. The firm itself, 19 years old, is that about right? 20 years old?
Yeah, so Lewis Foreman started that back in 2001, and then we merged with Enventys to form Enventys Partners. I know, very creative, back in 2016. So my firm before that was called Command Partners, so we took half of my name and all of their name and combined them together. But yeah, I mean, so our agencies, came together basically to be the world's first turnkey product launch firm.
Awesome. And I visited your facility. You got some pretty impressive products laying around. Can you throw one name out there, and we're going to spend 10 seconds on it? What's the most famous client that anybody listening might know of, or has seen a movie where the product is featured or anything like that?
Oh, featured products. We just had a Pix backpack in one of the Netflix series the other day, but like my personal favorite product that I've ever worked on was with Josh Malone and Bunch of Balloons.
Bunch of Balloons.
And I think last year they shipped over 2 billion units. So, I mean, it's incredible, the growth of that product. And it was just, amazing that we got to be able to work with Josh before that product became such a mainstream hit. We got him on the Today Show before any other Kickstarter campaign ever got on the show. So it's just amazing to really bring crowdfunding to the light and to the masses, at least the early adopter community, through the national PR that we were able to get for that campaign. And it's been a lot of fun. We see a lot of different product ideas, a lot of different innovations, and we're very fortunate to have such a full funnel of new innovations coming in every day.
And what is Edison Nation, part of your group down there?
So Edison Nation was part of Inventys. And again, I don't have any affiliation with Edison Nation. That was on Lewis's side. And we did end up helping them do a Regulation A+ campaign, an equity crowdfunding campaign. I raised over $5 million, I believe, for that project before it actually went public. But they deal with more on the inventor side of taking products to market, more licensing side of things. So they're more of kind of like a sister company, if you will. But I don't have any, day-to-day or affiliation on that side.
And at the beginning of this, I don't know if you said it in the recording or if it was in our initial conversation, but you're podcasting as well. What's the name of your podcast and what are you covering?
Yeah, thanks for the shout out, Joe. So my podcast, we talk with early stage entrepreneurs and founders that typically launched a crowdfunding campaign or are about to launch a crowdfunding campaign. So the podcast, my plug, is called Art of the Kickstart. So check out artofthekickstart.com. We are probably the longest running crowdfunding podcast out there. I took that over, I think, back in 2015, 2016. We've done about almost 400 episodes now. So you guys are getting there. I think you're at about 100 or so, 150, Joe. So a few more weeks.
Yeah, we're way behind you. We've got to double up in order to catch up, and I don't see that happening.
Well, you need Mark to start pulling his weight, right?
Exactly, Doust. Come on, get on it. He doesn't listen to this, so I can say anything I want to about him. People listening, send him an email, mark@quietlightbrokerage.com. Tell him to get on it and start recording some more podcasts. Or
should have heard this podcast, Mark. It was all for you.
I love doing it, so I don't mind that he's a slacker in that regard. Let's talk about how in the world did you, as a teenager from Freeport, Maine, consult with AOL and what was it, Yahoo or something like that? Google?
MSN, yeah, Microsoft.
I mean, okay, so as a teenager, I was trying not to lose my license and it didn't work out very well. And a whole variety of other things that you're consulting. What were you doing and how did that come about?
So I forced my parents basically to sign up for AOL. So, I had like I forget what computer it was. It was either like a compact Presario or one of those Apple LC2s, back in the day ones in the early 90s, and got on AOL. And, as a 13-year-old, I think at the time, basically it was the wild, wild west and anything went. So you could do anything. So then I learned how to code and script programs in Visual Basic and C++. And through AOL, you could do a lot of things in their chat rooms and emulate the community action team, Catwatch. So you could go in there and do lots of nefarious things. And one of those things that I used to do back in the day was those sorts of things, or mail bombing or spamming or changing my username to get other people's information. So that led me down a path of getting in trouble and, consulting with the authorities in terms of things that we were doing or the vulnerabilities that AOL had at the time, right, on their platform. So it was just consulting for that in terms of patching some of the holes that they had on their software that all of us teenagers were taking full advantage of in terms of pirating wares and those sorts of things on the site. So did some small consulting there for just showing them everything that I was doing so I could stay out of prison. And then that led
jail time. Yes. Okay.
Exactly. So I was like, all right, yeah, sure. Here you go. And then that led me to doing some short-term consulting as well for MSN as they were launching their platform to say, here's some of the gaps that AOL had here, things that you should plug, and doing some more tech support for those folks. So that's, that's the long short of it.
That's pretty amazing. It must have been really scary for your parents as well.
They didn't really have a clue. Fortunately, my father was a special agent for the government, so that definitely assisted and helped.
Oh, good. It's always good to know the right people for sure.
Exactly.
It's all amazing and pretty impressive. I got to tell you, I've talked to Louis again off and on for the last couple of years. We've had clients go down and visit with you, work with you, but the work that you do is so all-encompassing. It's almost hard to comprehend. The crowdfunding part of it, I think, is simply brilliant. I think it's a great way for new and innovative products to launch, get the money before going to the manufacturing. And the fact that somebody can come to you with a sketch on a napkin or an idea in their head and use your design team to put that on paper and then into the computer and then visually present it and do a crowdfunding campaign is simply incredible. I thank you for all the work that you're doing for all my fellow entrepreneurs out there. I appreciate it. And I know you're helping people first and foremost, which is the most important thing. And at the end of the day, it comes back and helps you as well. And you've been doing it for, a decade plus now. Any changes in the future? You guys going to continue to do what you do? Any new paths or tracks that you're going to go down?
Yeah, I mean, the hope is to launch more of our own products. We have all of the resources, but it's cobbler's kids these days. We're very busy. We have, we're very fortunate that we have an amazing team around us that are all product experts in their categories, whether it be, the full omni-channel marketing side of email, PR, social, lead gen. We have an amazing advertising team and, leadership there. And just overall on that side, really just trying to launch our own products. And, the engineering team is second to none with the capabilities that we have downstairs in our facilities to be able to bring products to market, and we have the best, most amazing technology down there as well to do it quickly and rapidly and cost effectively, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is just, oh, it's going to cost me $100,000 to build this thing, where with 3D printing and some of the products that we have in shop, we can do things very quickly and very rapidly, and then test very quickly to see whether or not you should continue spending on this thing and if there's truly a crowd around it. So the hope is, launch our own products. We're doing more and more equity crowdfunding as well, which I think would be an interesting path for a lot of the Amazon businesses that are out there, to be able to raise additional capital for your company, just by offering up 10% of your company and raising $1 million for it through the crowd. Obviously it's a lot easier when you own the data and you own the customers, which may be a challenge on the Amazon side, but certainly in terms of showing growth, there's a lot of opportunities on the start engines and WeFunders out there of raising additional capital for your company based on the success that you had so far. So we've worked with over a dozen different campaigns in terms of the equity crowdfunding side, many of them post-reward crowdfunding, where they have a crowd, delivered a product, the consumer loves it, and now they want to be a bigger brand advocate for them by owning a piece of the company.
Equity crowdfunding is a new term for me, and we just opened up a can of worms here. That could be an entirely new podcast, and sure. My goodness, cover it real quickly. It's literally, you're raising money. We have people all the time that say, hey, look, I'm trying to keep up with inventory. All I'm doing is, a HELOC, more on the HELOC, more, wherever I can grab some money. There's equity crowdfunding where they can grab money from the public that's willing to invest, and they can use that capital to grow their business and expand their product lines.
Exactly. Yeah. So they can basically offer up a piece of the company, convertible note, whatever it is. There's a lot of flexibility there, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but there's a lot of opportunity there to continue to raise capital for your company by giving up a little bit of equity and showing that you're a high growth, high trajectory company that they can invest into. And I know there are Amazon companies and case studies that are out there, and I'm happy to look into those and share those with the audience as well when you get this published. But it's definitely an alternative way of raising capital from your crowd, from your community that you've built. There is another company that we work with and partner with. I'm not sure if you've had them on the show or familiar with them, called Kick Further, where again, you can fund your inventory by people, pledging basically on their site. We're saying, you give them a certain percentage return within a certain amount of time for you to fund your next inventory purchase. So, again, another alternative for, the Amazon sellers out there.
Okay. You're blowing my mind here. I wish we could do this in 20 conversations, but we don't have time. So, look, everybody, you've got to go to inventispartners.com and check this out. Connect with Roy. Ask him about the flannel that he has on today, whether it's actually an LL Bean flannel because he's from Freeport, Maine, or not, and why he's wearing a flannel in September in North Carolina when it's only 65 degrees out today, so that's a good reason. And your former almost golf pro career. There's so much that's crazy and fun about you, and then what you do in terms of helping the entrepreneurs is pretty incredible. Folks, definitely tune in to the Art of the Kickstart podcast. I'm going to tune into that myself. Definitely visit inventispartners.com. Am I missing anything at all, Roy?
You nailed it, Joe. It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to everybody reaching out from this so I can track the ROI of Joe's podcast and see if you guys are actually listening out there. But no, I really do appreciate it. I am here to help. Honestly, I want to help out all the entrepreneurs and bring more amazing products to market. So I'll make sure Joe has all my info, and I appreciate the time.
Thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it.